son
just
had.
just 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 being kind here, Alex. I like
Thank you.
there's such a thing as syntax. It's like language actually has meaning, and you have to like you can't like in
Okay,
contract
Wednesday.
in contract law. Well, no, let me help you out. You're going to sign a contract sometime, and you're
Yeah.
going to say, well, that's not what I thought it implied. That's I thought it implied this, and the judge is going to say, son, I wish you had taken basic grammar more seriously, and because you
That's
didn't,
probably true.
you're going to have to pay this.
Oh no.
So
Claire. Let's go.
I mean, so you just got to get past that, Alex.
My favorite
Um,
person in the world is here.
who's here?
Claire.
So, um, I gotta
Go ahead,
I
John.
gotta
Go
do
ahead,
something
John.
for you guys because I wanted to leave this conversation tonight with you guys having it down like the back of your hand. And Claire, you're gonna listen too.
She's going to listen.
Let's see here. So I've hold on here. She's requesting. I'll accept her. Okay. Okay. Claire, I'm gonna convert you to theism.
No, no, Roger was saying something so wonderful. He was complaining about the grammar of young people these days. And he just echoed everything I've been thinking for a while now. It's like, why don't they teach these people whose language it is their own grammar? Drives me crazy.
Claire is. May I call you Claire?
Yes, of course, Roger.
Claire, maybe you could encourage Alex's mother to to
My mother's a wonderful lady, Joe.
help him to take his studies like Alex. Let me tell you something, Alex. If your mother abides your nonsense, she's a saint. She's angelic. Okay,
My mom's
so
actually on her way
so
to Orthodoxy. Thank you
so
very
so
much.
so I agree. We all agree that like your mom must have the patience of Job. Okay, so
She does have 8 children, so
nobody is question. What's that?
she does have 8 kids, so
Well, good
come
for
with it.
her. I mean, my wife and I had 10, so
Holy
but-
shit.
so I know a little bit about this, but
I just got family logs. That's crazy.
All right. So
John, please
I got
go
a
Oh,
ahead.
question for Claire
fuck off.
before I talk about this. Claire, why are you
Hmm.
always commenting on my spaces talking shit?
Well, I just find you have more interesting conversations than others, and I find Roger quite funny.
Okay, he's a funny guy. Yeah, he's a funny guy.
And Ryan's also quite funny.
Ryan,
I mean,
yeah.
the way
Ryan's
he
a little
goes
goofball.
in his pompous Catholic way, like he knows everything, I find that quite funny too.
Ryan, we asked him about 100 trivia questions, and he only got 4, unfortunately. So
How many did Alex get right?
the other 96.
John, if you could make your case.
Yeah, so there's the transcendental argument for God. Now, I've mentioned it to you and Alex, kind of giving you a brief summary of it. I'm going to try to summarize it, therefore, in a very easily to understand way, so that way you can have it down and you can utilize it even for other people. But the summary is summarized and it's easy for you guys to understand, but that doesn't mean anybody can understand it. Who doesn't have, like normies might need to think outside the box a little bit, right? So here it is. There are the reason why you. So the argument goes that you cannot have objective knowledge or any kind of knowledge. You just can't have knowledge. Knowledge is, by its nature, objective. You can't have knowledge without God. God is necessary for knowledge. Now, why is this the case? It's because without God, uh, the atheists have both of their methods. They have two methods that they claim to get knowledge from, and they're both flawed, and that's why they don't work. What are the two methods that atheists or agnostics or agnostic atheists, gnostic atheists? What do these atheists use that is not justified? Now, they use rationalism and they use empiricism. Now, I'm a theist, I'm a Christian. I believe that empiricism and rationalism are useful tools for getting knowledge, but I have justification for it. With God, they do not. Why can't an atheist use rationalism or empiricism? So it's pretty simple so far. Uh, my argument is that only Christians, or rather, only theists, can have objective knowledge and grounded in something, uh, and atheists cannot. Why? Because they use empiricism and rationalism, which aren't inherently bad, because under a theist paradigm they work, but under an atheist paradigm, empiricism and rationalism do not work. Why? Okay, what is rationalism? What is empiricism? Empiricism is the idea that we can extract knowledge from our environment. I think this works as a theist, but an atheist can't justify this. Now, the rationalism means that you can come to rational knowledges using your mind. So they think they can use their mind to get knowledge. Atheists, and what is empiricism? Essentially, that you can get knowledge from your environment, but ultimately you still have to use your mind in order to extract that knowledge, right? So it ultimately reduces to rationalism, the mind, in a sense, right? So they think that they can get knowledge from their own mind, without God. Now, why can't they do that? First, I'm going to make so to summarize it, only theists can have knowledge because atheistic rationalism and atheistic empiricism don't work. Why? Empiricism doesn't work under an atheist paradigm because they can't justify or give reason to why what they're seeing with their eyes, their perceptions, is actually the real world. And they can't like, for example, they can't prove that we're not a simulation in a vat, right? We're a brain in a vat, or we're in some sort of hallucination, or um and here's another thing. They can't connect their perceptions, what they see, what their five senses sense, to cognitions. Cognitions pop into our head. How do we know those are perfectly congruent, or our cognitions? How do we know those ideas are ours? How do we know what even does that mean to an atheist? Our, right? So empiricism is flawed fundamentally because they assume the tools they use are correct, and they cannot prove why. Now, I understand the proclivity for someone to say, "Well, I can see it, man. We're just going to deny our eyes." It's not that. It's not that like I'm it's not that I don't use it. It's that and I it's not that I don't think it exists. It's that you can't justify why it works and I can't. You can say all you want. Man, we do it, man. We do it. We do it. That's a fallacy. Just because we do it doesn't mean like you can't actually prove we do it. You just say it is. They don't have a logical justification. I can understand why a normal atheist might hear that and say, I don't give a shit. We just do it anyways. They can say I don't give a shit, but that is not a justification. That is not an argument. As much as they want to whine and fight, and I'll drag them by their hair to the truth, to justification, while they kick and scream. I don't care because they don't have it. Now, let's say we can't draw information from our environment. Can we do it from our rational mind? Can we do this with our mind? We actually can. How do you come to axiom or axiomatic things with your mind? How do you come to logic with your mind? Uh, an atheist ultimately has to pick what is logical and what is axiomatic arbitrarily. It all comes down to their own criteria, which is arbitrary. Why should we use your criteria for what is knowledge and what is truth? Well, because I prefer it, because I think it. So let me read this. Problems with atheistic rationalism. If axioms are selected by one's own unjustified criterion and arbitrary sense of rationality, the atheist is making themselves the ultimate arbiter of truth and thereby abandoning all hope of objectivity. They cannot give an account for why we can justify knowledge in our minds, only stating that axioms are self evident, truly meaning arbitrary and subjective. It's like saying axioms are real because, trust me, bro, because we do them, bro. If logic and the subsequent knowledge that would come from logic comes from the mind, if logic comes from the mind, we're rationalists. It comes from the brain, and not a God-given brain and mind, just our minds. Then why can't we change the laws of logic? If it comes from us, why can't we define it however we like? Why is 1 + 2 always 3 and never not 4? Or never 4? Why is it never 4? Why can't we just change logic? Why is the law of non-contradiction always true? We can't define it with our own minds. It's because there's a transcendent source that we are understanding. It's not our own mind that makes it up. It's not a language. Like it's not saying it's not defined by our brains. We can't change the laws of logic, like I said. Anyways, let's say now I said there are two tools. The two atheist tools are flawed because they can't justify. As theists can justify because we have revelation saying these things are real and they work. They do not. They just say because it is, but what it is, bro. It is what it is. That's not an argument. That's not justification. So even if I grant them, even if I grant them knowledge and say, okay, your empiricism works. Let's say just give it to you. Your perceptions are accurately perceiving reality, and your cognitions are accurately congruent with your perceptions. So it's perfectly working in a perfect harmonious relationship. Even if I give them knowledge and just grant it to them, which they don't have, they don't justify. I just give it to them. They still have a problem, and that is the morality problem. Even if we grant the atheist the capacity for knowledge, neither rationalism or empiricism can justify why we should use or care about these epistemic theories, as they still lack a justification for morality. Even if we give knowledge, they don't have morality. Why should we give a shit about empiricism? Even if it's true, why should we use it? Even if rationalism is true, why should we use it? Keyword should. Why ought we do it? They have no justification for those words. Um, Now, all this to say, that is the base argument. Now, with a God, so the point being, you cannot ground knowledge in epistemic theory in the self in you, because you whether it be empirically, you can't know for a fact. This is what David Hume pointed out. You can't know for a fact that your eyes are seeing things for what they really are, and your brain is congruent with that. If you're an atheist. And you also can't prove that, logic isn't made up by the mind, obviously. Logic is transcendental, it is always true. Um, and you can't prove why we ought to use those things. Now, with that being said, there's a second part to this argument, which I haven't figured out yet, which I plan on looking into and studying. And that is that if we need God for knowledge, if he is necessary for knowledge, because these atheistic tools do not work without God. What are his necessary characteristics and what kind of ontology must he have? Now, I will figure that out after more studying, and I'll have to read some more stuff. But that is the starter argument, and now once I get into the second part, I can start to argue maybe for a specific kind of theism. What kind of God do we need? Because it can't be a polytheistic God for objective morality, for example. It can't be polytheism. It has to be monotheism, right? And we can go from there and see what other qualities must God have or characteristics or ontology. But right off the bat, we can prove that you do need a God for uh, justification for knowledge. Once again, why? Because you can't ground it in yourself. You have to ground it outside of yourself, outside of you and your fallible things. even if they're not valuable, you can't justify them. You can't prove them with 100% certainty to be strong or true or whatever, right? You have to give it outside. You have to let it go. You're not God. You have to you have to say there's a transcendent, all applicable being that applies and acts upon us to give us these qualities and abilities. That's why it's all transcendently true. That's why logic is consistent for all of our minds, and it's immaterial. Um, um, and and um, and he enables rationalism to work. He enables empiricism to work. So when people ask a theist, how does empiricism work for you? Because you're saying it doesn't work for us atheists. How does it work for you? Well, we have justification for those things. We have a creator that enables our perceptions and cognitions to work and enables our rationality to work because we don't ground it in our freaking axioms and opinions. We don't arbitrarily define logic like a language. Now, here's that's basically it. Now, there's a couple things I want to say that might interest you guys. Um, let's see here. One being, so an atheist cannot justify diversity. An atheist cannot justify diversity. What do I mean by that? When a puddle touches the ground, it is physically continuous. The atoms flow, right? Why do we make distinctions between the puddle and the ground? Why is there reason to believe that these things are separated? Why why am I different from you? Why am I different from the air, and the air is different from you, right? Why is reality not fundamentally oneness? That is because well, an atheist, they can't say why. Well, we know it's a cat because it's a cat. Well, how do you know it's a cat? Because it's separate from reality. Why is it separate from reality? Because it is. No, it's physically continuous with the air around it, the air with the trees with the grass with the Earth's crust and mantle and core, with space, with everything else, right? It's all physically continuous in some sense, even if you think reality is more fundamental than atoms, call it waves, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, there's no reason to make or there's no justification for these diversities. Not it's why is it not uniform in oneness? And we could say, well, revelatory theism told us that there's differences in reality. We know that. Um, and the atheist has to say axiomatically, I just believe it to be so because it seems self-evident. Self-evident, right? It's funny how they just grant themselves all the things that we justify with God, right? Now the last thing, which is interesting, now this blew my mind, but it's obvious when you think about it, but it blew my mind. Um, um, Diversity, because it is true that things are physically continuous, right? Physically. So what divides things? Um, um, us, we divide it, right? Well, God divides it, right? But we have rationality to recognize those divisions. God has given us an ability, that is the ability to distinguish, the ability to, whether an atheist admits it's God or not, they still have the ability gifted by God. They still have the eyeballs and the soul and the animus to separate physical things and distinguish between them, because be- because of all the reasons why he did it, right? Multitude of reasons, but it's ultimately these tools we have: logic, reasoning, the ability to distinguish, the ability to like have moral capabilities, the ability to conceive of causality and cause and effect. Because if you can't distinguish reality, you can't say one thing causes another. It's just all oneness. So God has affected our psychology and affected our souls and minds in order to interpret the world in a way that something without that could not. A rock can never, ever tell the difference. Obviously, I mean that's obvious, but maybe you could say something like an animal might have some um, ability to dictate, but not on the same level as us. Perhaps they can see different beings, and God's granted them that much. But anyways, these tools, these tools that are given by God, the transcendental concepts, mathematics, these are I mean, this is just wonderful evidence for God to me. The fact that He's gifted us with these beautiful things, these things that provide structure and order to the world. Uh, anyways, I kind of ranted for longer, but I think you guys get the gist of the argument. Atheists cannot justify empiricism and rationalism, and if they can't justify empiricism or rationalism, they can't justify knowledge.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty straightforward, John. I agree. Keep making the argument. The more you make the argument, the more you'll be able to, to refine it and make it more and more pointed. And but I think it's sound. The reality is, um, they 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 want um, the structure secured uh, by they want the empirical structure secured by the transcendental argument without having the moral structure that is implied. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. I should have man, I well, not promised, but I told myself I was going to keep that to a short few minutes to kind of make it a little bit more concise, but I think you guys got my point. You're smart. You're
yeah,
smart.
it's all good.
Claire, what do you think? You disagree with me, huh? I talked a load of shit, huh?
I think Roger is right that you need to use, more academic language to have the authority. You need to persuade people, and I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to do what Descartes tried to do, which is to prove God exists using deduction alone, right? That was what Descartes was trying to do. When he talked about the certainty of knowing that we as individuals exist when we ask ourselves whether we exist. Therefore, he said, I think, therefore I am. Because I can feel myself thinking, I know that I exist. That is the surpassing certainty that he felt would make people believe in God. If only he could construct a chain of arguments that would lead to that kind of certainty in God that he hoped to reach through reason alone. But he didn't succeed. And I think that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to win the argument, right, John?
Yeah.
Which is ambitious.
Yeah.
Well,
And
to be fair, Claire, Descartes did not make the transcendental argument, and so John is attempting to do a different argument, and if he's not putting it forth in a way that makes it distinct from Descartes, he just needs to figure out how to communicate it to you in particular in a way that creates that distinction.
so you're saying Descartes was not making the transcendental argument. Could you remind me what the transcendental argument was that he was trying to make
I
or did make?
I don't touch or read Descartes. This is an argument made by a lot of people after, but originally started with people like Immanuel Kant.
Well, he was just saying he was talking about morality, basically, wasn't he? He was talking about the moral imperative, and we know something is wrong if we imagine a world where everybody does this particular thing, and then we know it's wrong.
I don't think you know what you're talking about, respectfully.
Well, you must have heard of Kant's principle of universalizability.
Categorical imperative. I'm aware of it. That's nothing to do with the transcendental argument for God that he made.
Well, I don't think Kant was making an argument for God anyway. He was still talking about
He made
morality.
the transcendental argument for God. He was the first person to make it. He literally labeled it the transcendental argument for God.
Okay, so what did he say? What was his argument?
Well, I mean, I kind of laid it out already, but I can say it again if you'd like.
In one sentence, hopefully.
One or two. I'll try to be concise. And it is very nuanced, but I can simplify it for you. He said that the only way you can have knowledge is with God, because the atheist cannot justify why empiricism or rationalism, the mind or experience, can give you knowledge. They can only assume it, which is not evidence.
Well, I suppose the atheist would say these theists only think they know God exists. They only think.
Well,
they
you
cannot
got me
prove
there.
it
I never
to
thought
our
about that,
satisfaction.
Cyborg. I never thought about that. Respectfully, I do think you're missing the argument.
What is the argument again?
Claire, you're
In
killing
one
me.
sentence, please.
Okay. Yes. So the ability to have knowledge. So before you can even make an argument and critique Christianity, the ability to make arguments and to have knowledge and to know skepticism exists, the ability to have knowledge, you have to justify that and prove why knowledge is possible. You can't just say it is, you have to prove it. Because we don't I'm not trying to operate on faith. I'm not saying just believe God. I'm saying know God. So why can't an atheist have faith? Because the only way they can get knowledge is through empiricism and rationalism. The mind is a rationalism. The environment is empiricism. The atheist can't justify why empiricism works and the mind works. They cannot prove that. They can only assume that. Do you understand now?
Well, they are a bit confused about how they use empiricism. And I would argue that atheists, particularly liberals, have, in fact, a religion called liberalism. And they have faith that it will continue to work. And they still think that, some of them. So you can't say they are without faith. It's just that they use different words that we do, sometimes meaning the same thing, or they use the same words that we do, and it means different things to them. But we have to focus on, what is really at issue, and the issue is morality. Atheists also think they are being moral, and they think we are being immoral because I'm agnostic, but I'll go into your camp for for ease of understanding. So they think atheists are stupid and wrong because they believe in things that obviously don't exist, and oh, look at these terrible wars of religion and blah blah blah. So it's to do with a fundamental misunderstanding of morality. I mean, can they prove that they're more moral than theists? They can't really. So I think the only way to break through that is have a different is to agree the terms, right?
Yeah.
If you cannot agree the terms, you're not having a constructive argument, because you're talking about different things. You're talking at cross purposes, and you have to show that your morality is superior to their morality.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
John, I mean, I'll say, John, I don't believe that I'm going to be able to state it better than you, but like you, I just want to practice stating it, right?
Yeah.
Stating the transcendental argument. So let me say that there are two things, the two preconditions are, in order to, the two preconditions for knowledge is you need universal laws of logic and and a and an externally sorry, and coherence in the external world. So that is, you need you need universal laws of logic, or a framework to know, and then you need, in the external world, an external world that is coherent, so that it actually is knowable. So you need a framework of knowing, and then something that is knowable, and something that where this framework of knowing can be applied to something that has coherence, so that it's knowable. And that's what theism provides, because if you say that there is a designer, and that and you can account these laws, which are have a certain complexity and intricacy to them, to a designer, then you know that's what you need. Whereas in the atheist worldview, everything that exists is a product of unguided natural processes with an indefinite period of time. So it's random. And so when you take something that is just essentially a disaster, a big collision, it's not, you simply are, you have to suppose the existence of God in order to have universal laws of logic, and to have the external world be coherent. I mean, that's it. That's really it. And in the short. So if somebody wants to think contrary, I mean, the burden of proof is on them.
There is a mode of argumentation called the presupposition. So, and I believe it goes, well, I believe in God, prove me wrong, kind of thing.
Well, we all have presuppositions, Claire. The question is, by what means are we going to test a presupposition to see if it proves up?
You have to ask questions and make arguments.
So you have to make arguments, and this is exactly what John is saying. You have to apply the universal laws of logic.
Yes, and Socrates showed us the way forward. Like, well, you think God exists. How do you know?
Well, that's not much of a. If that's all Socrates said, then that wasn't very helpful. Now, was it?
Well, he had a methodology of undermining people's claims, but anyway, I mean that's how an atheist would
Yeah.
question a theist.
So we've had a lot of philosophy since Socrates, and we've thought about a lot more than basic skepticism. We've skepticized skepticism and so on. My argument, like this is what Roger and I are saying. We don't think that you can know anything, and we can justify that. We don't think knowledge is possible without God. You can't know anything without God. You can't make an argument without God.
Well, without assuming something and hoping somebody agrees with your assumption, right? But the presupposition that you know we agree on certain things, but we don't quite agree on the interpretation or whatever. but you
Claire, if I may, what are your, just for the sake of discussion, and you're obviously a curious lady um, and somewhat intelligent to want to engage in this type of stuff. So, what are your presuppositions?
my key presupposition is that the Quran is the best available guide to humanity. Number one. Number two, God is very useful to humanity, to man in his government, politics, and morality. And three, if man created God, he created God for a reason. What are those reasons? Those reasons are for his politics, government, and morality. And therefore, we um, consider the range of religions created by man, if it is our presupposition that all these religions are created by men, clever, wise men, and then we work out which religion is the best. So if we want to believe in God, there are a range of gods. There's polytheism, there's animism, there's ethical monotheism. Ethical
Well,
monotheism is the most powerful religion.
Claire, if I may, um, do you believe man created God?
It's possible.
No, but do you believe that he did? Not just that it's possible, but do you believe man created God?
I'm agnostic, so I'm obliged to entertain that idea, and since I come across it so much amongst atheists, I have to have arguments about how to deal with them. But what I'm trying to do is say, you believe in God, you think God was made up, but there was a purpose. There is a teleological purpose to 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 the idea of God, and even atheists complain about their government and the law, and are always saying there ought to be a law against this or that. And the only way to make people obey the law is to believe that these laws are from God and are good for them.
Do you the question, Claire, is not what people believe. The question is what is in reality.
Well, we will never know. We will think we know, but we don't really know, which is why agnosticism is the most intellectually respectable position to take. We already know that
What?
somebody who wants to believe in God will not be persuaded otherwise by an atheist, and vice versa.
Well, but what we can do, Claire. So, do you understand the difference and I assume you do, but I would just want to hear it in your words, the difference between deductive and inductive logic.
Deductive logic is basically rationalism, and inductive logic is basically empiricism.
Not not exact. I would say, and we can talk about this for a minute. I would say not exactly. I think there's though there's some truth there. It's not it's not perfect. So inductive logic, so deductive logic, structurally speaking, deals in true and false claims. Inductive logic deals in probabilities. And so uh, so in probabilities, rather than calling it true or false, we call the argument strong or weak.
Valid or sound, I think.
Well, we would valid or invalid has to do with the so valid and sound. Those have to do with the critiques of the structure of a given argument, and so you have sound and unsound, and then valid and invalid. So sound and unsound, I believe, it's been a while since I've taken logic, but sound and unsound would be applied to the form of an inductive argument, and a valid or invalid would be applied to the form of a deductive argument. But the output in a deductive argument is always going to be true or false. And the output of a that is the conclusion of an inductive argument is always going to be strong or weak. It's inductive logic is always based on probability.
What about the black swan scenario? Like you think all swans are white until you see a black one. Is inductive logic, right? And
No, that's not what I would call in that's not what I would call inductive logic. I mean, inductive logic would be so um, it's forming a probability. It's always dealing with a probability. So like when you talk about the black swan, okay, so there's a sense in which they're related. Like the black swan would be that um, you know, that one time that the argument demonstrated there was a 99% chance it was going to be answer A, and a 1% chance that it would be answer B. If that 1% chance happened, we would call that a black swan. But the black swan is improbable. So anytime, you know, we use inductive logic, you know, very often. That's how we, you know, we kind of like we know, um, for instance, if the roads are icy, that there is going to be an increased probability of accidents. Um, we can't say for sure that there's going to be an accident, but we say there's an increased chance that there's going to be an accident. So that's what you know, inductive logic is looking at empirical data and formulating probabilities out of that empirical data.
yeah, so with deductive logic, when somebody talks about a married bachelor, for example, we know he's talking rubbish. We know he's talking nonsense, or married spinsters. So you don't need to. You can deduce that person doesn't know what they're talking about, and can safely dismiss their opinion. But with regard to valid arguments, I would say valid arguments are basically logical arguments, um, and invalid arguments are illogical arguments, and sound arguments would be logical arguments that are based on the truth. So to give you an example of an a valid argument that is unsound would be if all toasters were made of gold, toasters would be valuable. But we know they're not made of gold, and therefore they're not valuable. And an example of a sound argument would be all men are mortal. Socrates or Jesus was mortal. Sorry, was a man, and therefore that Socrates or Jesus is mortal.
So here's an example of an inductive argument, and this is just courtesy of Google AI. So it's not something that I came up with that I think is the best, but so let me just read this on inductive. So key points about inductive arguments: they're based on observation, and so this is what you're talking about, where you're relating it to empirical or a posteriori. They rely on observing patterns in a limited set of data to make a conclusion about a larger group. This is the kind of the basis of induction. Okay, they deal in probable conclusion. That is, the conclusion is considered likely but not guaranteed to be true. And your conclusion can either be strong or weak depending on the quality and quantity of evidence used. And depending on the quality or quantity of evidence used, an inductive argument can be considered strong or weak. And so a deductive argument it's either valid or invalid in form, true or false in conclusion. And so here are some examples of here's an example of an inductive argument. Most people who live in California like surfing. So my new neighbor who just moved here from California probably likes surfing too. Now, that can be, um, again, we're not dealing with true or false. It may not be true, but if most people who live in California, if we grant that the premise is true, that data set is true, most people most people who live in California like surfing, then we can conclude that if a person just moved from California, they probably like surfing. So goes the inductive argument. Now, so here is so when we get into the inductive argument, um, we could say, but by way of inference to the best explanation, things that we know are designed appear to be designed. Whatever you have, if you're in your kitchen, Claire, and your toaster, it has a certain function. There's a certain amount of technology to it, and it has levers. It requires electricity. It's engineered to work with the amount of voltage and amperage that's supplied. When we look at that toaster, we say, based on the fact that it has the appearance of design, it's probably designed. There probably wasn't two cars that collided on the freeway and the shrapnel randomly assembled a toaster out of it. There's probably an engineer that had, drew up schematics and actually designed the toaster. When you see,
it has a purpose.
What's that?
Everything created has a purpose. From what said, we can deduce that everything created has a purpose.
Sure. So everything created has a purpose. But there's assumed in that, when you say everything created, that there is a creator.
Indeed. So
Sure.
About human identity, some of us theists would believe that we were created, and the atheists would say no, we evolved.
Okay.
But they get into trouble when,
But what we're saying there, though, is, as a matter of probability, when you look at an unabridged Oxford dictionary, do you assume that a type factory exploded and a dictionary self-assembled out of that explosion?
Certainly not. I take the teleological view that the dictionary had reason to exist and somebody created it.
Somebody created it. So when you look at the simplest living organism, a single-celled organism, an amoeba, and the DNA is constructed perfectly so that it can self-replicate, and that DNA has as much information perfectly connected that it's the equivalent of 1,000 sets of an Encyclopedia Britannica, that there's actually that much data in the simplest single-celled organism. Do you take from that is the product of time and chance? Or do you say, no, because 1,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannica encyclopedias would not self-assemble. They would have a designer. So this amoeba, this single-celled organism, must have a designer, a creator.
Yeah, but evolution, which is now the mainstream official.
No. That's the right there. That's your inflection.
Authority.
That's your inflection point, Claire. Right there is because when you say evolution, what evolution is an unguided process of time and chance. And so when you see something, when you see one book, even a child's book, you don't assume that it's an unguided process of time and chance that accounts for it. When you see a dictionary, you would even assume less that it just evolved. When you see an entire set of Encyclopedia Britannicas, you would even assume less that just evolved. And when you see coding in a single-celled organism that has the equivalent of 1,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannicas, then you say, well,
but it's still,
you know what, that one is accidental. It did just evolve.
It could still have evolved and could be
But
evolved.
Claire, what are the chances? I mean, this is where, and and this is where, like, this is where the argument has been made, and you're arguing on such a weak. It's the weakest. It's such a weak inductive argument. I am on the strong side. I've made my case that everything we see that bears the hallmarks of design has a designer. But when it comes to this single-celled organism, you say, well, yes, it has the hallmarks of design because DNA is an information system. DNA is essentially digital coding. And in this case, this digital coding just spontaneously self-assembled out of stardust. And so you can understand why I would have a problem with that, right?
Well, I think let's simplify the argument. You're saying that God created the universe.
No. We don't have to go that simple. Let's just say, before I say God created the universe, I mean, we have to have, we can work back to that. I mean, we can get there. But before we say that, I mean, if you can't even look at something that has digital, that is a digital information system that is scientifically proven, empirically tested to have that it is a digital information system. It is information. It is an information system. It is as much information as 1,000 Encyclopedia Britannica sets. And you say, for some reason, you say because you didn't actually witness a designer design it, you simply can't believe that it was designed.
Well, why can't it have evolved if the universe
Because
is
what is evolution, Claire?
development, progress towards something better than
No,
before?
no. So here's where you're at. So like, we can think about, I like music. I do musical instruments. So we can say musical instruments have developed, we can say they've evolved over time, say. But when we talk about evolved, we're we're talking about that designers improve upon the design over time. Every guitar you see, you believe that it was designed. But when you get to the amoeba, that actually is far more complex than a guitar, you assume that it wasn't designed. Why? Like, why do you do that? That's not logical. There's nothing logical about that. You must have a presupposition. You've got something else out there that essentially forbids you to confess what's obvious.
I think that this argument goes back to the Greek philosophers about the universe. I think Aristotle, if I'm not mistaken, was
Aristotle made
it was
arguments for
always
God.
there. Sorry?
Technically, Aristotle and Plato were some of the first people to say that you have to ground knowledge in God.
Let's try it another way, Claire. Why, when you look at a guitar, why do you believe it has a designer?
Because it couldn't have created itself. But it's not obvious with humans and creatures and animals.
It and I think exactly what we're saying, Claire, is it's the most, like, it's even more obvious with creatures and animals, given the amount of complexity and information that the implication of a designer is even more obvious. It's far more likely that a sonnet assembled itself than it is that a dictionary assembled itself than it is that an entire set of encyclopedias assembled itself than it is that 1,000 sets of encyclopedias assembled themselves.
But Roger, I think the problem is that what may be obvious to you is not obvious to the atheist, and they need to be, brought around to a more.
It's a good point. What's obvious to you is not obvious to an atheist, Roger.
Well, I think it is, Claire, and I think it's obvious to you too. You know that the argument is good, you just don't like it.
Perhaps it's so close to you, you can't see it.
Obvious, and I believe I have, but they don't like it, so they reject it, and it's nothing to do with logic at the end of the day, because atheists reason. Well, perhaps not just them, reason with their emotions. So if they hate it, they're going to reject it. And lots of people are like that. You can't reason with it.
Correct. So when it gets to something they don't like, they deny logic. They just deny it. They just dismiss it. And so it should be for the same reason. I mean, when you look at a guitar, you say it has the hallmarks of design. When you look at a piano, you say it has the hallmarks of design. When you look at a car, you say it has the hallmarks of design.
Yeah, because it was designed by a man.
Well, hold on. You don't know. You didn't see him build it.
If you didn't see him build it, you don't know. But no, the truth is, Claire, I agree with you that but when it comes to something that is just mind-blowingly complex, like a living organism that is far more complex, that has far more of the hallmarks of design than like a brick.
A brick.
You say,
because
you say, well,
made by humans.
Well, Claire, it doesn't matter. I mean, the point is,
the point is you have to persuade the atheist, and you need more persuasive arguments that show that you have overwhelmingly won the argument.
No, Claire, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I mean, there is the argument. The problem is not the argument. The problem is the atheist, and that's what's demonstrated over and over again. I mean, you can't. All we have, our tools in the toolbox, are logic. That's what we have. We have logic.
I have a different methodology. May I try it out on you?
Oh, please.
Right.
Please.
If you could role play an atheist, please.
Sure.
So I begin the dialogue by asking you, Roger, you'd like to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life or the next, wouldn't you, Roger?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't believe that there's any such thing as good.
Aren't there things you like, Roger?
There are just things that I just have preferences. They're just things that I like.
Yeah, which means there are things that you like, you would prefer to live rather than to die. You would prefer to keep your possessions than to be robbed of them.
Yes.
Therefore, you might like to agree that there ought to be a law against murder because you wish to keep your life and possessions, etc.
Well, I also like killing, Claire. And if there was a law against murder, then I wouldn't be able to do it.
But then if there were no law against murder, people would kill you.
Well, but I think I'm better at it. And it's a way for me to get possessions.
Old, Roger, and maybe if you kill too many people, they will gang up against you and kill you.
Well, Claire, as far as I'm concerned, when I die, I'm dead, and I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well eat, drink, and be merry. I mean, I feel like you're putting like moral restrictions on me,
Well,
Claire.
yes,
But
that's the whole idea.
I want to be able to do whatever I want to do.
Well, I'm sure we all would, but I think sensible people would agree that there ought to be laws against murder and theft and all the rest of it.
Well, I think sensible people would say if something is worth trying to keep, then it's worth trying to get. And when you create these laws, then you restrict the means by which I'm able to get it.
So,
Ultimately I'm not going to be able to keep it, Claire, because there is no, I can't take it with me. I'm an atheist. I just believe that when I die, I die. So I can't take it with me. All I can do is enjoy it in this life.
but surely,
So
as an atheist, there are benefits to living under good government, enjoying a peaceful, progressive, law-abiding society. Atheist that you are.
no, it doesn't. It has no appeal to me. I want to be able to do what I want.
So you're some
I don't. I don't.
gangster.
I feel like you're trying to put moral restrictions on me, Claire, and I
Well,
don't like
that's
it.
precisely my intention.
Well, I don't like it. I don't consent.
But then you'd been jailed talking the way you do for
Well,
mass murder.
well, Claire, I would not be in jail talking the way I do because there would be no jails.
We have to start where we are. We can't be in this anarchic heaven that you imagine yourself to be. So maybe that explains why anarchists are people of no status.
Listen. I mean, warlords are people of status, and I'm a warlord, Claire.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned being a warlord. So once upon a time in Europe, um, there were all these warlords who were kings, and they thought it would be better for them if they pretended to be Catholic. And so they submitted to the Pope until they couldn't stand it anymore and decided to be their own Pope.
Well, dumbasses, they were kings. They should have just maintained kings. Goodness. I I mean, I want to be a king. So in order to be a king, I need subjects. I need power. I need slaves.
But you
I need
also
to
need
rule.
moral
I need to,
authority. You
well,
want the people to trust you and not argue with you every time and say you're lying to them. So you have to appear to be good, so they will
I don't
trust you.
I don't so you're saying I need to deceive them?
Well, that's the whole idea. Confucius was the one who said, "Look, king, you can have all these terrible laws and punish them, but they'll just evade you. But if you seemed like a nice guy, they'd love you and want to please you.
So
So be a
so
nice
you're
guy.
so you're saying I should be deceptive.
You can
Are
try to
you
be
are you are you
deceptive.
are you are you are you proposing deceptiveness as a virtue, Claire?
No, you just have to declare your
I
your
I feel
principles, and the only way you
I
can do
feel
it is through religion.
Claire, I feel like you're proposing deceptiveness as a virtue. And for me, I you know, I mean, that's I guess that's a strange case to make. But no, Claire, I mean, ultimately, I just want to do what I want to do. Might makes right. Survival of the fittest, the strong survive. And you know, I
Yeah,
hope
yeah, and not
I
okay.
hope that you're able I hope that you're able to, protect yourself, Claire, because I'm a ravaging menace, and I consume whatever I feel like consuming at the time.
I
So,
understand. Most people in power think like that, but from what you were saying, I was reminded of a debate between Stefan Molyneux and J.F. Gariepy, who are arguing about nihilism and moral absolutism or universal principles. Yes, it's called universal principles. So Stefan Molyneux was arguing for universal principles, and JF was just saying, well, I prefer, as he was saying, I prefer to keep my life and my possessions, etc. But there's no, and I'm honest enough to admit that when it suits me, I might kill you if I think I can get away with it. I would kill you and take your stuff, etc. And
That's what I would do, Claire.
indeed.
Yeah.
You couldn't kill me, Claire, if you tried.
The point that I do think Stefan Molyneux made was that who would get more followers? Stefan Molyneux talking about his universally preferable principles, saying, I'm going to, be nice, be a nice guy, etc. And JF saying, well, I might kill you if it suits me. So obviously,
I don't even, Claire, I don't even like people. Why would I want followers?
Because you need to have people obey you. You need to control the armed forces and the police force and
I'll
judiciary to be the
listen.
warlord that you want to be.
I'll simply take what I can, and as far as the people that follow me, I'll be like, look, listen, I will help you rob, kill, destroy, plunder, and rape and pillage, know, and so just follow me. I'll show you the path to be able to get as much stuff for yourself as you can. And yeah, and just use, and when it comes to the point, where we end up having to fight and kill each other, then we'll just do that, and that'll be okay too. I certainly, Claire, would not be. You couldn't appeal, to the afterlife, because that's not, we don't believe that, and so all there is the now, Claire, and I will do as I will.
Yes, and we know what happens to people who think like that. They end up in jail or killed.
Well, listen, I mean, what,
in
Claire,
gang fights.
How long, do you think you're gonna live forever if you don't think like that? We all die. The difference is I got to enjoy, I took off the reins and ran like a herd of wild horses, Claire. I got to enjoy, satisfy my flesh, whatever it was that I wanted to do. I was the determiner of what I did. I answered to no one. I simply did what I wanted to do.
Okay, so you end up in jail or killed in a gang fight. Most people would like to think that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life or the next.
Well, why would they think that? That's kind of a
Because it
stupid
makes
thing to
them
think.
feel good and safe.
Oh, it makes them feel good and safe.
Yes.
Well, I'm not that stupid. So the stupid people that want to feel good and safe, they can do that. But I'm not that dumb, Claire.
Oh,
I
all right.
mean,
I mean, if you think it's
so
rotter to end up in prison or die in a gang fight, that is your life. But most
well,
people
hey,
would like to live in a peaceful and law-abiding society.
listen, most people that want to live in a peaceful, law-abiding society, that's code for they are bending over and taking it up the ass in every conceivable way. People telling them what to do. By the time it's all said and done, they're just slaves on a plantation. So pick your poison, Claire. I don't want any part. You can have your plantation life. You can be a house slave. You can be a field slave. I'd rather just die in a gang fight.
Everyone to his own, different strokes for different folks. But on the question of slavery, let me ask you this question. If God exists, would it be better to know that we are his creatures and his slaves, or to not know that we are his creatures and his slaves, if God exists? Are you able to
Well,
entertain this idea, Roger?
well, I mean, Claire, you would have to give, some kind of a reason that God exists, and that's not been forthcoming. I would love to. I mean, if you would wish to persuade me that God exists, that would be interesting. But you know,
Well, I think it's enough that the concept of God exists because people already want to believe in it, and there's no need for his actual existence for people to want to believe in it. And
Well, people want to believe the tooth fairy exists.
yeah,
I mean, goodness gracious, people want to believe freaking Santa Claus exists. People want to believe the Easter Bunny exists.
exactly. And
I mean, so God, Easter bunnies, Santa Claus, tooth fairies.
but
I
God is the
mean,
most powerful being conceivable, so he's the most important for our social, moral, and political purposes. If we're
well, I would say
interested in
that.
government and politics.
Well, clearly the tooth fairy. I mean, the tooth fairy gives you money.
But for adults,
I don't. I don't. I feel like that logic is unassailable.
yeah, but you're talking as a child. But I think for voters and taxpayers complaining about their government, they will be arguing about whether God exists and whether a theocracy would be better than allowing our corrupt and incompetent ruling classes to make up the rules as they go along. What do you think,
Well,
Roger?
I'll just simply leave them to their delusions. I mean, there's no proof God exists. I'll just leave them to their delusions. There's no compelling argument that God does exist. I mean, why would somebody like just, try to pull that out of their ass and cook it up and feed it to everybody at supper time? That's kind of weird.
Because if everybody believed in it and obeyed the laws, then society would be better and people behave better towards each other. What's wrong
Well,
with
that would
that?
just mean well, that would mean everybody believed a lie, and so you would have everybody would be like retarded. Like everybody. So the best case scenario is when everybody is deceived. Sounds fantastic.
Well, I think in any society, most people would agree that there ought to be a law against murder, theft, etc.
Well, listen. I mean, I don't know why one would think that.
Well, because they
I don't know.
they would prefer not to be murdered and not to be stolen from.
Well, then it's only weak people that believe that. Strong
Well,
people don't
most
believe
people
that.
are weak.
I mean, don't you believe evolution, Claire? Don't you believe the survival of the fittest?
I
Don't you believe might makes right?
I believe that even moral systems participate in a Darwinian um, battle to survive. And,
Well,
and I think it is objectively possible to prove which religion is the best out of the 5 world religions.
I mean, I you have not been making a case for much objectivity. In fact, I mean, it's clear to me that um, you're happy for everybody to be actually deceived if that's affects the outcome you would like.
Well, I wish people
So,
to be law abiding, but they can believe what they like because there's no point forcing people to believe whatever because they'll just
well,
go against it.
but Claire, I mean, everybody has a code, right? So they all abide by their own laws.
Yeah, but
So
would you just
everybody
agree
is
on that?
law abiding.
But would
Yeah,
you
why are you trying to push your code on me?
no? Because
Why don't you take my code?
because if everybody behaved like you, we'd all be dead. We'd be living in a
Well,
Mad Max world.
I wouldn't be, and I
Well,
would be
you
having a lot
don't
more.
know. There might
I
be somebody meaner
I
than
I,
you.
I would be having a lot more fun, honestly.
Well, you can play video games of raping, slaying, and
No,
pillaging.
no, no, no. The video game is not the same as IRL. IRL, Claire. I think it needs to be IRL. Now, what I'm saying, Claire, is um, if you are trying to reason with me,
I hope
and
no one in your house can hear you, Roger.
well, I mean, well, John, and I could care less. I mean, I think I could care
Oh yeah,
less.
there you go. Who
Um,
cares, right? You're a
who
savage, right?
cares? Yeah, I'm a savage. So no, Claire, if if you want to tell me that something that has perfectly organized data, the equivalent of 1,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannicas, um, is the product of stardust collision, then I mean, I don't. I just don't find you believable. I don't find you serious.
Well, I'm more interested in persuading atheists that it would be useful and beneficial for them, for even them, to live under a theocracy, because I'm saying good government has benefits even for atheists, particularly if that theocracy allows freedom of belief and free speech. So what's
Claire,
the problem?
it assumes you have nowhere to ground your morality.
I
You're
ground
not
it in the
grounding it.
Quran.
But what is the Quran like? What is the Quran grounded in?
It's grounded in the word of God for Muslims who believe that their book comes from God.
Claire, do you believe? I mean, you say you're agnostic, so you don't even know if God exists. So you're going to ground your morality in something that you don't even know if it exists.
Well, the
I'm just
Quran
saying
exists.
it's sketchy. Well, the Bible exists. Why not ground it in the Bible?
Well, the Bible has been, well, badly
I mean,
interpreted, and Christendom entered in 1918.
have you read like the Tripitaka?
No,
I mean, well, maybe you should give that a try. Maybe that's good. I mean,
it's this Buddhist thing, isn't it?
give it a try. I
No,
mean,
no,
you never know.
because the Buddha
Maybe
only
you
had a
should ground it
personal
in.
philosophy.
Maybe you should ground it in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
Well, the Roman Empire is
You know,
extinct, and
well,
the Buddhist countries are not great empires. So reluctantly, we have to remain in the West and wonder what its failing religion is failing to do. Well, what doesn't even have
well,
a religion? The West doesn't have a religion.
well.
Secular
I
humanism. What do you mean?
secular humanism. I mean,
It has no principles. It has no codified principles.
of course it has codified principles. Haven't you read the Secular Humanist Manifesto?
No, it doesn't
Okay.
exist.
It does
Well,
exist,
sure.
actually. There's three of
The
them.
Secular
There's three of
Humanist
them.
Manifesto absolutely does exist.
Oh, please, post a link.
There's three of them, Cyborg.
Okay, well then they don't have a supreme authority, these secular humanists. So we have to ignore them. Oh, but sadly, neither do Jews have a supreme
We are the
authority.
supreme authority.
Well, I think that, when it comes to the most obvious information system, you appeal to Darwin, I believe, as the supreme authority. I
Well,
mean, you believe that stardust cladded, and you know, and DNA, assembled out of that somehow.
I just want to make simple arguments that people who are a bit vague about DNA and biology can understand, and we can only persuade these people by keeping the argument simple.
Uh, I think the simple argument, Claire, is the thing which self-evidently is designed had a designer. And I think when you say, well, let's simplify that, I realize it has the appearance of design. In fact, it has way more of the hallmarks of design than even a piano or something. But let's simplify it. Billions and billions and billions of years ago, when there was nothing, something exploded and DNA came out of it. Thank you, Claire. Thank you for clearing that up. Suddenly, I just feel like it was a mystery, and now it's so clear and so easy to understand. It makes so much more sense. And oh, by the way, now that I realize that this DNA was just the product of it was just an accident, the result of an accident. Now, this thing that I'm constructed, or that accounts for the replication of the cells which constitute my body. Now that I know that it's the result of an accident, that really helps clarify moral questions for me. So thank you. That has really cleared it up. Like, how can you possibly say that is clarifying and that is simple? That's absurd.
No, I'm trying to make the arguments to be used for persuading atheists to be simple instead of talking.
Atheists are simple by nature. I mean, only a retard would believe that a document that had the equivalent information of 1,000 sets of Encyclopedia Britannica just spontaneously self-assembled. So
well, you can't
atheists
conclusively prove that Sam Harris is a retard, can you?
Oh no, yeah, I think we can. Yeah,
I read his books. He's
yeah,
a fucking
yeah.
retard.
No. The strong argument, Claire, is that Sam Harris is a retard.
Okay, but I
Yeah,
think you need to
yeah,
have
he
it
is.
sort of officially acknowledged, and
In his book, he said, "I'm a
Stephen
retard."
Dawkins.
Oh no. This is like an appeal
Richard
to authority
Dawkins.
fallacy,
We
Claire.
are ultimately appealing to authority. I admit that.
I mean, you need to have something officially sanctioned. Oh, what could possibly go wrong there, Claire? I mean, has there ever been?
It's all politics.
Claire, has there ever been something that was detrimental to humanity that was officially sanctioned?
Nevertheless, we still look to government
actually,
to solve the
well,
problems.
well, listen, some people do, Claire, and some people don't as much. I mean, you look to government to solve your problem. I look at the problem and try to come up with a solution.
That's the same
So,
thing.
no, it's not the same thing, Claire. It's not. You look. You see a problem and you look to government to solve it. I don't look to government to solve it.
Well, the only way, most problems are to do with people not seeing things the way we do, or doing the things that we want them to do, and you use the law to regulate their behavior. If they're not behaving in this way, you change the law.
Here's a for instance, Claire, and Claire, I might add that like I'm playing devil's advocate, and I kind of believe what I'm saying, but it's for the sake of the argument. If I sat down and had a cup of coffee with you, I would open the door for you. I would pull the chair out. I would buy you the coffee. I would bring you the coffee to the table and make sure that you were taken care of. Okay. I'm not, but this is in a space. And so I am being a little hostile for the sake of the space. But I would say, Claire, yeah, so you don't agree with me, right? And so I would say, well, and Claire is she needs her timing advanced. That's another way of saying Claire is retarded. But so then you would say, well, Roger, you need to have government solve that. Well, let's take a look at government schools and see how much government schools have done. Government schools have facilitated the retardation of the entire nation. How much do kids really learn about economics in government schools? They don't learn shit. What do they really learn about history? They don't learn about history. They receive a government approved narrative that sponsors the current, essentially they receive the myth that keeps the mafia intact. And so they get that from the government. Like, it's shocking to me, because I do actually think you're an intelligent lady, Claire, but it's shocking to me that you would look to the government to fix a problem.
Well, we want the government to behave better, and this is a moral problem, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we have to evaluate the government. We can't go to the government to get to be trained on how to evaluate the government. That's like Stockholm syndrome.
No, but you're saying there's something wrong with the government. Oh, hey, the corrupt and incompetent, right? And then it's like, well, what are we going to do about that? We have to prove that they are corrupt and incompetent. And then
Well,
everyone around us will say they're corrupt and incompetent. We got to get rid of them.
now, so what we have right now, I think where we're at right now, Claire, is we're in it kind of like a certain phase of Stockholm syndrome, and either the people are going to continue to be raped to death, or they're going to wake up and say, you know what, I don't consent. So right now they're still in the consent phase, and I would suggest to you that you're still in the consent phase, but I don't consent.
Well, I'm proposing
I'm the odd
alternatives.
guy out. I just want to watch you guys. You know what I'm going to do, Claire, is I'm going to get to my guitar, and I'm going to continue to develop my skill so that as Rome burns, and all of you guys are saying,
you'll be strumming your guitar.
I will be the finest minstrel that ever played while Rome was burning,
Will
and
you
I'll
play
watch you.
something for us, Roger?
Uh, uh, well, perhaps sometime, Claire, but not, but that's what I'll do. I'll say, okay, so um, Claire, if I may, um, did I read the poem to you, Claire, Creed by Stephen Turner?
No, please do.
I'll do that. And John's heard me read it, and he might be sick of it. But John, it's just one of my favorite poems, and I
think I've heard it once. It's good. I want to hear it again.
Okay, here goes, Claire. This
Wednesday. Listen up.
Oh, Wednesday's back. No, I did read it to Wednesday, and I think Wednesday is a gentleman and a scholar, and I think he can see, that some of what's in play here. But okay, so Claire, here goes. We believe in Marx, Freud, and Darwin. We believe everything is okay as long as you don't hurt anyone, to the best of your definition of hurt and to the best of your knowledge. We believe in sex before, during, and after marriage. We believe in the therapy of sin. We believe that adultery is fun. We believe that sodomy is okay. We believe that taboos are taboo. We believe that everything is getting better despite evidence to the contrary. The evidence must be investigated, and you can prove anything with evidence. We believe there's something in horoscopes, UFOs, and bent spoons. Jesus was a good man, just like Buddha, Muhammad, and ourselves. He was a good moral teacher, though we think his good morals were bad. We believe that all religions are basically the same. At least the last one that we read was. They all believe in love and goodness. They only differ in matters of creation, sin, heaven, hell, God, and salvation. We believe that after death comes the nothing, because when you ask the dead what happens, they say nothing. If death is not the end, if the dead have lied, then it's compulsory heaven for all, excepting perhaps Hitler, Stalin, and Genghis Khan. We believe in Masters and Johnson. What's selected is average, what's average is normal, what's normal is good. We believe in total disarmament. We believe that there are direct links between warfare and bloodshed. Americans should beat their guns into tractors, and the Russians would be sure to follow. We believe that man is essentially good. It's only his behavior that lets him down. This is the fault of society. Society is the fault of conditions. Conditions are the fault of society. We believe that each man must find the truth that is right for him. Reality will adapt accordingly. The universe will readjust. History will alter. We believe that there is no absolute truth, accepting the truth that there is no absolute truth. We believe in the rejection of creeds and the flowering of individual thought. Postscript: if chance be the father of all flesh, disaster is his rainbow in the sky. And when you hear state of emergency, sniper kills 10, troops on rampage, whites go looting, bomb blast school, it is but the sound of a man worshiping his maker. And while you worship your maker, Claire, I will play my guitar and I will think it's glorious watching all these people burn in their own refuse. And my conscience will be perfectly clear. I'll sleep like a baby.
Thank you, Roger, for that for that reading. I do remember now that you reading it once before.
Yeah. Yeah, the postscript is my favorite, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
I will simply watch mankind worship this creator that they have made after their own image. And I'll watch it implode and I'll sleep like a baby. It'll be glorious.
And who wrote the poem? Stephen Turner, did you say?
Stephen Turner wrote that poem.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I first read it in a apologetic work entitled "Can Man Live Without God?" But yeah. So I say no. You and Stephen Molyneux, and everybody that rejects the Christian God, you can come up with your own devices, your own imagination, your own machinations. Just give it a try. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. So
yeah,
it's been many years since any society actually ordered itself around uh, wanting to do what was right before God. So we've been a post-Christian society for freaking forever. So
well, the age of Republican revolutions has not completed itself.
hey, I don't know. I mean, everybody is, everybody has got a question. I mean, what do they believe about God? And I understand I'm a minority, Claire, and I don't give a shit. And you could bring the army in and say, repent of your belief in God. They could burn me at the stake. They can do whatever they want, Claire. I'm a minority, and I'm a minority that believes that the guitar had a guitar maker. And I don't believe the guitar evolved. And I think that the world has gone mad, and I'll leave them to their madness. So that's all I have.
Well, I believe that by Weaver to Act, they think there is a fighting chance of success, and I believe there is.
Well, I want a true narrative, Claire. And I mean, listen, the Bolshevists weaved a new narrative, but I actually want a true narrative.
Yeah, well, the narrative I'm using contains narratives from the Abrahamic religions.
Well, that's a little too unspecific for my liking. So I am not a mixture of Jews and Muslims. Christianity is a very narrow belief, and it doesn't include Jews and Muslims. I'm not, part of the Abraham religion family. I'm a Christian.
But don't you think in order to understand the will of God, it is necessary to know a little bit about history, and certainly the history of the Abrahamic religions?
Well, to the extent, Claire, that God is sovereign and that he superintends all of his creation, I mean, you can learn a lot more about how he has superintended it over the years if you know history. I think history is very valuable, but I mean, do I think that I am going to get like useful revelation from Judaism or uh, uh, Islam? No.
Why not? I mean, considering Christianity is, Christians culturally appropriated the Tanakh, the Old Testament, from Jews.
No, they didn't culturally appropriate the Old Testament from Jews. Goodness gracious. Who have you been, Claire? We are gonna. John and I are gonna have to do it because we like you. We are gonna have to do an intervention. You are henceforth forbidden to listen to Adam Green, Claire. You have got to have your mind be no longer impregnated by his nonsense.
I haven't listened to him for ages, but anyway, he just blames everything on Jews, right? And he won't talk to me.
No, he blames everything on Christians. Secretly, he's fascinated with the Jews. He loves them. I think he is Jewish.
Well, I think everybody kind of wants to be a Jew and blames Jews. And that is the neurosis of all these people who hate Jews. They want to be Jews. Because when you
Claire,
hold on. I figured Claire out, right? So she sounds like she's from the UK. I know a lot of Muslims are immigrating there. Did you find yourself a husband and you've converted?
What? I mean, I don't have to find myself a husband in order to
No.
convert to Islam.
I'm not saying you have to find yourself a husband. I'm just saying I know there's a lot of Muslim men in the country now. I can see how Islam might seem appealing, but that doesn't make it true, Claire.
Yeah, but no, who knows what is really true? But I mean, thank you for mentioning the UK, because the biggest group of converts in the UK were white working class women who, I guess, wanted to have legitimate children and wanted to marry men who were going to take their marriage vows seriously. So they decided to marry Muslim men.
So what you're telling me is I'm on the money, Claire.
I think John, I think you have connected the dots, bro.
You look at UK all over the news, it's like some Muslim related crime, But so that's how you know the immigration there's skyrocketing. Regarding Wednesday, I wanted to say something to you real quick. You said earlier that the transcendental argument for God wasn't an argument for God; it was just an argument for transcendentals. No, it's the argument that God grounds transcendentals. Dummy. All right, we'll continue though.
Wednesday, I don't know why John has to be such a provocateur. He left. No. Listen, Claire.
So Claire, did you find someone who takes you seriously?
Well, obviously they all hate my solution, but then I already knew they were all Islamophobes, and I guess it's a big ask to get white people to acknowledge that their, precious Christo-liberalism is kaput. It's like the most lied to people in all of humanity. They've been lied to longest with Christianity, and after that, liberalism. So
Claire, that assumes a truth claim. You're making a truth claim, but you're not grounding it in anything. How have they been lied to with Christianity? What's the lie?
that Jesus is God is the lie.
Oh, well, that's fascinating, Claire, because for somebody who is all into the Abrahamic religions, I mean, don't you just believe that claim because it's an Abrahamic religion?
And no, but I mean, you have to, compare the three Abrahamic religions. So there are only three. It's not that hard, right? So if you understand the Hegelian dialectic, then
Claire,
Judaism is thesis, Christianity is antithesis, and Islam is synthesis.
Well, goodness, Claire. I mean, freaking, if you understand the Hegelian dialectic, man is thesis, woman is antithesis, and trannies are synthesis. I mean, that's a hell of a claim to make about, the Muslim faith. I mean, yeah, I understand the Hegelian dialectic. I mean, it can be sometimes useful, but oftentimes utter bullshit. So
Yeah, but I would dispute you saying that the female is the antithesis.
You just
to the
haven't read
male.
enough Hegel, Roger.
Well, Claire, I would simply say this. What proof besides your incredulity are you offering up that Christ was not God?
Well, you'll never be able to prove it.
Well, so it's just your
without burning
incredulity.
people at the stake.
So your incredulity is the proof you're offering up. Well, I submit to you my incredulity as it pertains to Judaism and Islam.
Why you
So
based your religion on on Jewish scripture, so you can't pretend that you
well,
don't believe in it.
well, if you base your religion on the Jewish scriptures, you should embrace Christianity.
No, because basically Islam says no idolatry, Judaism says no idolatry, and Christians say practice idolatry.
Oh, goodness. If you base, well, listen, if Christians say practice idol, what is this like? You know, is this a democracy, like an Abrahamic faith democracy? I
Kinda.
mean, kind of. Okay.
Well, okay. So you're going to say it's not idolatry if Jesus is God, and then we're going to say, well, prove it. Where does it say Jesus is God? And you haven't got any evidence other than at such and such a time.
Roger, shut her down with that.
Claire, you seriously don't like? Have you never read the Bible? You don't understand that the Bible that Christ claims in the Bible to be God?
Which verse
Like,
was this?
which verse was it, Claire? That's why they.
It's
That's
not
why.
in the Quran, Roger.
That's why
Okay,
they took up
you're
stuff.
not exactly quoting the verses.
Claire. Claire, that's why they took up. Why, Claire? Why did the Jews recommend Christ to be crucified?
Because he said he was God or the Son of
Okay,
God.
well, okay, well.
Yeah, he said, but God is my
Thank you.
papa.
No. He claimed to be God. He did claim to be God.
I
They knew that
am the
they.
Father are one, he said.
Well, that would make him God, and the Jews said,
Yeah.
he
Who was John?
okay, so
We know nothing
so
about John who wrote the book of
so
John.
so 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 he claimed to be God, and the Jews recognized that claim, and they killed him because they said it was blasphemy.
Yes.
So thank you for agreeing with me on that. I didn't anticipate that being that easy, but I appreciate it.
That was the quickest switch up I've ever seen, Roger. I mean, that took 15 seconds.
Okay, so
No,
then Christians started worshipping a blasphemer, like God would be okay with that, having forbidden idolatry and blasphemy.
Well, Claire, Christians believed he was God. So it's if you believe that Christ is God, then he is due worship. And by the way, that's another proof of his deity is that he received worship.
Well,
And
lots
he
of
also
idols receive
and he
worship.
but Christ claimed to Christ was actually a living. You do realize that Christ was an actual historical figure that lived, right?
Well, this is in dispute, but anyway, the Quran
Well,
acknowledges
well,
his existence. So
Who
wow.
disputes Jesus?
Well. I guess. Listen, John. Hey, listen. If the Quran acknowledges his existence, if that's good enough for Claire, it's good enough for me.
Oh, that's what you said. Okay.
I was sketchy on it until she
Oh,
grounded his existence in the Quran, but now it's
the
solid.
Quran even
So
accepts the
Cyborg.
virgin birth.
How familiar are you with the Shroud of Turin?
Oh no, we have been through that. It's like okay, so even if it's real, so what? It doesn't mean Jesus is God.
Claire, might I say, I agree with you to a certain extent on that. Christians that appeal to the Shroud of Turin, that is like that is the dumbest. It is the dumbest appeal in the world. Like if I cannot know of the historicity of Christ and the claims of Christ without the Shroud of Turin, then I should just convert to Islam. Honestly, like it's like
Wow, I didn't know you said easy.
No, Claire, you're with me on this one. Like the Shroud of Turin. It's like this. I knew a Catholic once. He's like, yeah, I've got some bones of a saint that were killed by Calvinists. I said, bro, you freaking got those bones last Thanksgiving at the freaking chicken dinner or whatever. You and your damn bones, your damn icons. Good grief. Just yeah, yeah. I mean, the only shame is that the Calvinists didn't kill more of them so that you had more bones. I mean, what? Like, you got to be kidding me. You know, that's your religion. Okay, I got you. Yeah, the Shroud of Turin. That's Claire. Without the Shroud of Turin,
Jesus disappears in a puff of smoke.
He disappears in a puff of smoke. It's like freaking Penn and Teller fool us. You know, it's like, well, okay, you got us. You know, the Shroud of Turin's not real. Well, shit, what do we do now? Because the whole Christian religion for the past 2,000 years has been built on the Shroud of Turin. Goodness gracious.
I just asked a question. I just said, what do you know about it?
Bro. No, seriously. Our illustrious host, Alex, was with Ryan and others, like, arguing, you know, they're trying to make the case for Christianity to Wednesday, and they're arguing for the Shroud of Turin. It's like, oh, goodness gracious. Couldn't see that coming. Oh, that'll work. You know, next thing you know, Wednesday's like praying the rosary because of the Shroud of Turin. It's like, oh, goodness.
I
Not a
mean,
strong.
it did convert quite a few. I don't know how many people converted, but it converted the people who worked on it.
Oh, I bet it did. Yeah. Hey, do you know who John, do you know who
I'm just saying, the more and more I see about it, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it seems to be real. Let me put it like that.
Well, listen, it could be, but I'm just saying, you know, I can't even tell you, like, the Shroud of Turin is like 0% of the foundation of my Christianity. And I would recommend that you not allocate much more to it than that, but suit yourself.
Okay. So Claire, I mean,
Claire,
Claire.
John, first, Claire, I'm glad that I can mercilessly rip on you, but then also provide some comedic relief because I want you to get something out of this, Claire.
I
I
am.
want you to feel somewhat edified and a little bit of humor. Laughter doeth good like a medicine, Claire. And so I'm glad we can laugh.
Yes, and make theological jokes.
So Claire, like, is there like a rich Saudi you've been talking to? Are you funded? Are you did a couple Muslims move on your block? What's going on here?
No,
Why?
they don't even like me.
Oh, okay, but you
Well,
like them.
Well,
Claire,
they don't quite agree with secular Quranism because
Claire,
they want their interpretation.
That's what
Claire,
that means. I'm putting it all together.
Claire, you need to get a proper Muslim woman dress, a proper hijab. You need to learn how to cook, and I'm sure that there is some guy that's got 2 wives that could use one more, and I think you would be a fine, proper Muslim wife.
I have to hold on to my identity as an agnostic so that people understand that they can
but
arrive
Roger,
at
your
theocracy
daughter
through reason alone.
But Roger, your daughter is. I mean, Claire wants to hold on to her identity, but your daughters and my sisters, they have to gotta bend the knee.
They have to bend the knee. They've got to get them a compass and a good prayer cloth and figure out which direction, east is. And
secular Quranism doesn't require belief in
You
God.
gotta figure
It's a
out
legal
where
system.
Mecca is. Where's Mecca at?
It's like EU law, right? It's like EU law. I was a law student, and the EU law exists, and you don't have to like the EU. You just know how to operate within the system.
Claire, you seem like such a nice person. What happened to you people? Like, what happened to our English brethren? What happened that their minds just fell apart? Like, what happened to you guys? You're our brothers according to the flesh.
Like, what's
And
the zeitgeist?
Well, because the
What's
British
going
don't
on?
take Christianity seriously.
well, why not, Claire?
Because
Why not?
it's so impossible to believe. I feel sorry for them. It's
Claire,
like being
Claire,
forced
Claire,
to believe in it.
Claire,
Claire.
you're expecting me to believe that that complex information systems were just shit out of Darwin's ass, and you know, I mean,
And that
it-
and that a pedophile prophet who believed in a God with two right hands is the real God, but Jesus Christ it wasn't.
but yes, we could simply
Well, how
Christianity.
can the creator of the universe be a man? Come on, guys.
Well, well, Claire, he sure as hell wouldn't be a woman.
Well,
I mean, goodness, you have to know that, Claire. I mean,
yeah, but
a
I
woman.
never said he was a
Could you?
woman or a
Well,
human
listen,
being.
if the creator listen, if the creator of the universe was a woman, then it would be like freaking the the fundamental. We wouldn't be talking about quantum physics. We'd be talking about estrogen physics. I mean, that would be a disaster. So just based Claire on the amount of rationale in the information system, surely the creator of the universe must have been must have been a man, right? Or had the attributes of a man. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, he did what would we would be freaking all studying how to make, sourdough or something if it had been a woman, right?
Well, obviously, God is neither male nor female, and because he's not human.
Well. Here's your situation, Claire. It's not going to get easier for you. Something can't come from nothing, right? That is, things that had a beginning must have had a cause.
Yes, and God is the uncaused first cause. Yes.
God is the uncaused first cause. You're correct. So God is self-existent. So God didn't have a beginning. Things that had a beginning must have had a cause, and in order for the law of causality, there there must have been an uncaused cause, a self-existent being. And so I mean, this is an all-powerful, uh, all-knowing, all-present being. This is pure actuality. This is logically necessary. And so the British can't believe that, but damn it, I'll tell you what, you know, Darwin's finches. I mean, we'll believe in Darwin's finches. It's like, what the hell? Like, what happened to these poor people? What happened that they became so easily just, beguiled by this Darwinian nonsense? I mean, if enough people, well,
Empiricism, the age of the Enlightenment, and I think
Claire,
that America is part of Enlightenment thinking, is it not?
Claire, empiricism, this is the transcendental argument that John was making earlier. Empiricism only works if you have a coherent external world. So, I mean, again, you can't get away from this, Claire. Something must have caused things that 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 had a beginning. And if that which had a beginning bears the hallmarks of intelligence, then the cause of it was intelligent. That which had a beginning does bear the hallmarks of intelligence and design. Therefore, that which begat that which was created, is intelligent and is an intelligent designer. And, and so what empiricism says, well, if he will not come into my lab and submit to me and let me run my tests, then it must not be true. Oh, good grief. Now you're just being a pseudo intellectual retard. And that is what happened to the British. They bought the lie, hook, line, and sinker. They thought that they could explain the universe apart from God. Turns out they were jackasses.
Well, it's Jews and Muslims who say that God is ineffable and unimaginable and not material. And it is the Christian assumption that God is Jesus and therefore, I guess, detectable through the eyes and maybe their scientific instruments.
Well, I'll say this, Claire. I will. I agree with you that Jews and Muslims have a lot more in common with each other than they have in common with Christianity. But if I may, Robert Jastrow was a astronomer and astrophysicist. So this is one of your scientists, Claire. This is one of your high priests, okay? And so he wrote a book called God and the Astronomers. And Robert Jastrow says, at this moment, it seems as though science will never be able to raise the curtain on the mystery of creation. For the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He's about to conquer the highest peak, just as he pulls himself up over the final rock. He is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries. Robert Jastrow.
Indeed.
You can fight against it, you can hate it, you can curse and spit, throw down, throw a temper tantrum, have to get a new change of clothes because you peed and pooped yourself, and at the end, that's where you're going to be.
Yeah, because if scientists believe in the Big Bang, the next logical question would be who or what caused the Big Bang, and they have no answer to that. But theists do.
Well, they have an answer for that they reject. I mean, essentially, here's the problem with an atheist, Claire. The atheist says there is no God. The atheist also says, I rely on empiricism. Well, empiricism is scientific naturalism. And so the atheists they try to use what physics to disprove metaphysics. Physics can only speak to physics. Physics can't even speak to metaphysics. So, I mean, I'm going to run an experiment in my lab, and therefore, providing that I can repeat experiments in the lab, God must not. What kind of jackass comes up with this stuff? What kind of utter ignoramus comes up with this stuff? I mean, So here's another quote from Jastrow.
Yes, if I smash enough atoms together, we can figure out if there's God.
Yeah, that's right. All of a sudden, and what we'll do?
We'll call it the God particle. Yes.
No, bro. We'll fire up the particle collider, and then we'll go in the back office and fuck each other up the ass while this thing runs, and we'll see what happens. It's like, yeah, bro. Yeah. Get right on that, please.
And then we'll have some Jew write an article about it, and Claire will pick it up at her local newspaper shop.
And all the goy will get their straw out, and this nonsense will run in the gutters, and the goy will be down
Claire,
in the streets
I have a question for you. So
with their straw, sucking this up out of the gutters.
Claire, you said like Christianity has fallen in sort of like the UK. I don't know which part of the UK you live in, but we'll just keep that ambiguous. Christianity has fallen, but it's like the Enlightenment ended centuries ago. Why? What does it have anything to do with Christianity falling? If Christianity didn't fall till over 150 years later is when the rate started decreasing. Over a century and a half later, did Christianity start to decrease in the United Kingdom? It was still 93% in the 50s. So what's happened? What if you had to take a guess in the past 70 years? What do you think's happened?
Oh, that the numbers of confirmed Christians are so low that they dare not publish the figures.
Well, here's the thing, Claire. You're like rooting for that number to go lower. You think that it's justified that the number of Christians are low. I don't consent to that. I don't concede that. I think that the number of Christians should be higher because I think that people that would deny people that even deny the basic Christian metaphysics are like are just they're objectively ignoramuses. But listen, as long as we can all agree on the bad idea, all it takes, John, for a bad idea to be a good idea is enough people to agree on it. You know, if I could give you one more from Jastrow there, from Robert Jastrow, Claire, he says astronomers now find they have painted themselves into a corner because they have proven by their own methods that the world began abruptly in an act of creation to which you can trace the seeds of every star, every planet, every living thing in this cosmos and on the earth. And they have found that all this happened as a product of forces they cannot hope to discover. That there are what I or anyone else would call supernatural forces at work is now, I think, a scientifically proven fact. But listen, so it's scientifically proven. But listen, Claire, if I can't see beyond the edge of the observable universe, there must be nothing there. Okay. Go back to Sodom and Gomorrah and try, impregnating your neighbor's ass with a baby. I mean, like, good grief, these people, they're such whack jobs. But hey, people keep lining up, keep sucking the utter obscene nonsense out of the gutter with their giant goy straws, hoping that that the straw is big enough that a turd doesn't get stuck in it. I mean, this is but what am I supposed to do, Claire? Is like kind people like you, well-meaning people like you, Roger, you need to try this. You need to get a straw. We're all doing this, Roger. And I'm supposed to be like, oh boy, you know what?
Claire,
Now that you put it,
inviting you to consider the oneness of God.
Now that you put it that way, Claire, I think I'd like a big helping of that goy slop. I mean, no, Claire, I'm just not interested, and I'm never going to
Claire,
be
so
interested.
you're a product, and I'm gonna be I'm gonna be a dick, but I'm not trying to be. You're a product of what malevolent people controlling the UK have intended you to be. They've flooded and opened your borders with Muslim, refugees, immigrants, whatever you want to call them. Make sure both. And now they want you guys to mix. They want you guys to assimilate in a sense, or allow them to assimilate. Not
Yeah, these
assimilate
ideas
in a
come
sense
from
of
America.
they come from all over the world, but yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because
not
they
just
are
America.
operating
Okay,
on
first of all, America
feminism.
isn't the fucking liberal capital of the world. We are a gay empire, yes, but so is the UK. You guys are pretty fucking gay.
Yeah, because of you guys.
Oh goodness, Claire, I cannot believe you're blaming this on us.
No, I'm saying NATO are vassal states, are U.S. vassal
The whole
states.
fucking Enlightenment that you were referencing earlier was in Europe.
Claire,
it went over to America, right?
Yeah, John
Claire,
Locke ideas, not the freaking gay libtard shit.
Claire, your illustrious leader, Winston Churchill, who this savage, this drunken reprobate savage that burned firebombed German city after German city, drove them all until there was a refugee crisis in Dresden, and then firebombed Dresden, mercilessly burning women and children, babies with their flesh falling off like they were at a freaking pig roast. And that guy, and so that you could side up with Russia because Germany had invaded Poland, you drag us into the damn war. We win the war. Sorry, Monty, we won the war. And then you turn around and freaking give Poland to Russia. I mean, so this is, listen, this is stuff that it's like, but let me, you seem like a nice lady, Claire, and so I'm assuming you're a nice white lady. Claire, I don't want to see you disappear from the face of the earth, because if we have nothing else in common, Claire, at least, you know, we have um, a common race. We come from a common Northern European biology. So this is Tim Wise. He is a Jewish, quote unquote, anti-racist activist. He says, you white people are on an endangered list, and unlike, say, the bald eagle or some exotic species of muskrat, you are not worth saving. In 40 years or so, maybe fewer, there won't be any more white people around, and that is a good thing. Do you agree with him, Claire?
Well, it's silly for minorities to gloat at the discomfiture of the majority. But this wise guy Jew is obviously a liberal. And are you going to
Well,
blame liberalism on Jews or on Gentiles?
well, Claire, this is what I'm going to try.
Are you going to blame liberalism on you? Hold on, Roger. I have a quick question for you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just have one quick question for you. What percentage
No.
of the world is currently white, Claire?
Quite well. You are the minority, which is why we now have this expression, the global
Just give me
majority.
a number. Just throw it out. I just want to. I'm curious to see how.
I don't know, maybe 10, 20%, something like that, of the global population. Is that what you're asking?
It's global. It's less. It's single digits. It's around like 7.
Okay, look, you don't need to despair, because look at the Jews. They're only 1% of the fucking world population, and still they
But
exist
they're not
because of
decreasing
the
rapidly.
religion.
They're
Pardon?
growing. They're not decreasing rapidly.
Well, a lot of these Jews who call themselves Jews shouldn't be calling themselves Jews, because they're basically heretics and are not observant Jews who, according to the Torah, should be
I'm not
stoned to
even bringing the
death.
Jews into this. White people are going away rapidly.
No, you'll just not be the imperialists that you used to enjoy your white privilege and stuff, because your economies will have collapsed because of decades of feminism.
Are you
So
white,
all you
Claire?
have to do is correct yourself.
Are you white, Claire?
No.
There you go.
Well, what's that going to do? It doesn't even matter, whether I'm white. What I'm
Well,
saying is true. You just have to correct yourself. You're not going to, disappear into nothing. Obviously, you won't enjoy the status that you used to enjoy because of the collapse of empire. But that doesn't mean, the end of you.
so Claire, you believe we're going to disappear into something, not nothing.
You will not be the paradigm has changed, right? I mean, I'm sure it's like the Romans, once upon a time, they were just Romans, and
I'm
then they
convinced
became
that Claire is a
Italians, and
Jew,
then
Roger.
they dominated the whole of Europe.
Claire. Okay, so listen, we're all friends in this space, Claire. I am of heavy German descent. I'm white.
You're Anglo-Saxon.
I am Anglo-Saxon, heavy on the Saxon. What might I ask? What you are, Claire?
I'm Chinese.
Claire, you're Oriental.
Yes.
Claire, are you being honest with me?
Yes.
Okay. Claire, no. One of my favorite people on Twitter, Claire, is actually from China. She is a banger historian on Marxism and all of that stuff.
Oh, what's her name?
Her name is
Yeah, you told me. She followed me. It's
Karen Esquire, I think. Something. I think her at is
it loses me. I don't know.
it's like at Canary.
Oh yeah, Canary. Yep.
Oh,
At
okay.
Canary something or other. No,
Okay, I haven't heard of her. Right.
she's absolutely freaking brilliant.
Mhm.
I'm not racist
No,
towards any kind of Asian, if that's what you're thinking.
Claire, I just have a disgust sensitivity for Asians. No, I'm kidding,
I think
Claire.
Asians are
I'm
actually the
kidding.
second prettiest women after my own.
I would agree with that, John. I would agree with that. So no, Claire, it's not. I'm just having fun with the thing. I think, Claire, you know that my shtick is irreverent humor, but at, at any rate, no. I think I I don't just accept the way things are, Claire. I don't just accept it.
Neither do I.
I'll push back. I'll push back, and then I'll die someday, and I'll stop pushing back because I'm dead. But while I'm living, I won't just accept the way things are, just accept the way things are going. But I'll tell you this straight up, Claire. If the Muslim men, if they are not trying to snap you up as a fine Muslim wife because you're Asian, then that speaks very badly of them. I'm just going to put that on the table.
I'd be a terrible wife because I'd be permanently online and never cooking or cleaning.
No,
and talking to you guys. So
We appreciate you, Claire, but you got to learn to cook and clean.
Claire, you have got to learn your place and and
Come on, Claire, that's funny. You can't lie. That's funny.
Come on, Claire. Come on. You know that's
She's
funny.
smiling right now. I can hear it through the phone.
She is smiling. The protective cover in my phone just cracked because she smiled so hard when I said that. Come on, Claire, throw up a laughing emoji.
Come on, you're making the squinty eyes right now.
All right. Don't you dare delete this space. Okay.
These are the best moments on X. They're kind of wholesome.
See, Claire. Claire, listen. Let me ask you this: do you honestly believe you could find an Arab or a Chinese man that can engage in this way? You know that it's us, Claire.
I do.
You know that if you don't have us, that this is gone. You know it's gone forever.
Well, a Jew can, and some Muslims can.
A Jew can.
Claire,
come on, Claire. Some Muslims
listen,
maybe, but a Jew.
No, John. Listen, Claire knows. She's actually she doesn't want us.
Jew. Sorry, carry on.
She doesn't want us to be proud. So she doesn't want to. She's actually right now. She's trying to run interference. She's
trying to wipe that smile off her face. Is what she's trying to do.
No, she's trying to protect us.
Oh, I see.
From
yourselves.
From ourselves. From too much success. From too much success in the
too
humor
much
department.
Jesus worship and idolatry.
Oh,
where it's got you.
Oh, goodness gracious, Confucius!
Hey,
where did it get you?
Do you know? I don't know if you're Chinese, but do you know what the fastest growing religion in China is?
it could be Christianity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because the Chinese want to gamble and eat their pork, right?
Well,
What?
listen, Claire. I mean, I know that Claire's like, oh, I know it's just so disappointing. You shouldn't have brought that up, John, because I want China to be part of the caliphate. But listen, Claire, China becomes part of the caliphate.
I want America to be the caliphate. That's what I want. And if you adopt secular Quranism, then your president will be the caliph, because the most powerful country in the world.
Claire, if I adopted secular, Claire, if I adopted secular Quranism, I would be as stupid and humorless as all the people that have already done it.
Nobody's become a secular Quranist. I'm the only one.
Well, perhaps, Claire, if you became Christian, you would have a better sense of humor.
My sense of humor is just fine.
Well, that objectively or subjectively, Claire?
Well, I think I make jokes, and people sometimes.
Oh, here comes the value claim.
Oh, people sometimes laugh. Well, listen, I'll tell you what.
No, Claire, make me laugh right now.
Although I'm comedically trained, it just wouldn't be proper
I
for
know.
me
I'm
to
just
try and tell
being an
jokes.
asshole.
No, Claire, I think that John has a good point. I think you, the joke, Claire, is the toll that you pay for being in this space. So this is consider it a tax. Pretend for a moment, Claire, that we are a secular Islamic space, and that we are levying a tax in the form of a joke. Now, would you please pay up before we have to make you an indentured servant?
And we're not Jewish, so we won't make the interest rate too high if you want to wait.
We won't. No, in fact, Claire, we're not Jewish, so we will not charge any interest whatsoever, because it's against our religion. Okay, no interest.
Okay, you're forcing me to tell a joke.
Okay, well, I would like to say that we are trying to persuade you to tell the joke, but please.
Okay. God, with his 10 commandments, went round humanity, and he went to the Arabs and say, I've got some commandments here. Would you like some? And the Arab said, what do they say? And God said, thou shalt not kill. And the Arab said, no, we're not interested. We like killing. And then he went to the French and said, I've got some commandments for you. Would you like some? And the French said, what do they say? And God said, thou shalt not commit adultery. And the French said, no thanks, we're not interested. And then he went to the Jews and said, I've got these commandments, would you like some? And the Jews said, how much are they? And God said, they're free. And they're two. Sorry, I'm messing it up. And the Jew said, in that case, we'll have 10.
Okay,
that's a very good joke.
That wasn't bad. That was pretty good.
That was not bad, Claire. See that was there was a
that was
nice,
actually pretty good. I'm impressed.
So Claire just told a joke in the stereotype genre of joking. So